The Jim Montgomery era is underway and the Blues are buzzing. Welcome into another edition of the Blues Breakdown Podcast. I'm Clay Herrell, and another pretty good week for the Blues. They're in the middle of this Canadian road trip there. They just wrapped up the game Saturday night against Edmonton, a 4-2 loss. We'll get into their loser fans here in a bit. But overall, the Blues are playing pretty good hockey, especially under Jim Montgomery. It's kind of interesting, right? Like you kind of thought there would be a new coach bump, and I'm wondering how much of this, we're, I guess, 2 weeks now into the Montgomery era, and how much of it is really a new coach bump at this point versus just a change in kind of the system and how things are done. But it just, overall for me, it seems like a more concerted effort to get pucks towards the net, and it's resulting in a lot more chances for this team, and they're playing a lot better hockey. And that was one thing, like, you saw, at least, maybe it wasn't an issue so much, throughout games, but what I can remember is one of the last games in the Bannister era, and I can't remember who the game was against, but they had the empty net, they were trying to find a goal to tie the game, and it's like they were looking for that one perfect shot, nobody shot the puck, and the puck ends up in the empty net, and they lose, whatever. So it feels like under Monty, though, like it's not even getting to that point, really, because they're shooting the puck more, they're scoring more goals, and they're winning games. But it's like, it feels like a much more concerted effort to get pucks towards the net, put pressure on the opposing goalie, and a lot of times it's worked out. And they're also, another thing is, they're winning games ugly. That New Jersey game, the second game under Monty, they won 3-0, but really felt like they didn't deserve to probably win that game. They had a good start with the Thomas goal 9 seconds in, but like overall, it didn't feel like that was a game that really the Blues probably deserved to win. But that's something they weren't doing under Bannister. They weren't winning games ugly, and they managed to do that with Monty, winning that game 3-0. And then you can honestly say the same about the game in Calgary just a few nights ago. Didn't play good in regulation. They were probably lucky to get a point. But again, if you look back to the games that jump out to me, two of them are the Philly game in Philly and then the Utah game at home, where it's 2 turnovers cost you don't even get a point, where it seems like they learn from their mistakes. They get the game to overtime, and guess what? What a play by Robert Thomas to get to the front of the net, and Parayko following it up with the game winner on a 5-minute wasted review. But, that's neither here nor there. The Blues got the 2 points. That's just something they weren't doing, and it's really kind of impressive to see right now, and we'll see, as things go here in a month and a half, 2 months, like kind of what things look like. But right now, the Blues are buzzing. They're playing really good hockey, and the guy that's probably playing the best hockey right now is Dylan Holloway. 6 games under Jim Montgomery, 6-game point streak, 6 goals, 5 assists for Dylan Holloway in that stretch, and he now joins Jake Neighbors and Jordan Kyrou atop the team leading goals with 9 on the season, and he's also the plus-minus leader at +7. So the offer sheet boys, they go back to Edmonton, and Holloway nets a goal there, extends his point streak. The Blues almost came back in that one. We're going to get to that here in a bit, but it felt like they're playing good hockey. I think we're getting there. Dylan Holloway's been incredible for the Blues. Philip Broberg's been really good for the Blues. But right now, with where the Blues are at, it feels like it's just really important to keep your head above water. A lot of road games here to close out the year. I think maybe 3 or 4 home games the rest of the year. So it's kind of important to just keep yourself in the playoff picture, because I feel like if you can do that, you're in a great spot. January, 8 home games, just 5 road games, and you got a 4-game homestand. I think 2 of them are against Calgary there in the middle of January. But important to just keep your head above water, because I think once you get back home for that long stretch of January, you're not traveling as much, you're not in Canada for 9 days, like, you're going to be able to put more and more together, have more, be home, have more practices, at Centene and whatever, like, maybe more and more of Monty's system can be put into place. But yeah, if they can just keep their head above water, it feels like they're in a really good spot, and I still feel like they're in a really good spot. I know me and some of my buddies have went and sprinkled some money on the Blues Stanley Cup champions future, because they're playing really good hockey right now. But 4 games here over this next week. A week from today they close. That will be the technical end of the game week, and it's Vancouver on Tuesday. And if you can win that one, it's a 3-1 road trip on a road trip to Canada. That really, when you're playing Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver, like it doesn't. That's you'll take that, because I was thinking there's a chance it's 1-3, 2-2, and there's still a chance it's 2-2. But the fact that the Blues have an opportunity to go 3-1 on this road trip is massive. Picking up that win against Winnipeg was just a clinical effort. Winnipeg looked, essentially they looked human. They looked terrible. The Blues had him in a blender. Every line combo they tried didn't work. They kept Kyle Connor under wraps. Schaeffer kind of got a garbage time goal late. But those two guys that have burned you so much over the years. And the Blues pick up a win over Winnipeg, which I think might be like only their like third since they beat them in the playoffs in 2019. So anytime you can get a win like that, and it's the first points over a Central Division team as well. So you cannot apologize for that, and they played a great road game in that one. And then, like I said, Calgary, it was all right? You get 2 points, you're never going to apologize for wins in the NHL. The Blues certainly shouldn't there to pick up the win. And then the Edmonton game, I mean, you had the bad line change. You had caught with 3 defensemen on the ice. Parayko and Thomas both thought they should have went off. At least Corey Perry all alone in front is what it is. That game was kind of a strange one. But, you have a chance to end this road trip strong against Vancouver. You're home for, I don't know why the schedule maps out this way, but you're home for one quick one against San Jose. Thursday, you go at Dallas on Saturday, which is another team. You look at the standings, and I know it's December, but you're 4 points behind Dallas as of today, December 8th. So, you got to pick up these points on these teams. That you might think, oh, it's only December, there's still time. But how many times does it come April or middle of April there, and you look and you think, oh, you missed the playoffs by 2 points or whatever. So you got to pick up points against a team like Dallas. They're a good hockey team, but you're chasing them in the standings right now. So it would be a big road win for the Blues, and then a big test the night after on Sunday next week. They play the New York Rangers at home, a team that they just handled pretty easily on the road at MSG. In Monty's first game, we'll see. I'm sure the Rangers will have some pushback, but it'll be important to that Saturday Sunday back-to-back is going to be a tough one with playing in Dallas and then coming home and playing there against the Rangers. I'm assuming the way it maps out is I would go Hofer Tuesday against the Canucks, and then I would assume Bennington Thursday against the Sharks, and then Bennington as well Saturday in Dallas against the Stars, and then Hofer Sunday, that Eastern Conference game. He just had success against the Rangers, so I think you go back to Joel Hofer there on Sunday afternoon, or I guess Sunday afternoon. It's 5 o'clock, but that would be my assumption of the goalie rotation next week. I could be wrong, though. Maybe they just throw at Benner at all 4 of those and see what happens. But going to be a long week of games, just especially for the Blues travel-wise. Going to be a long week. I think they have to stay an extra day in Edmonton. I think because there's like the Eras Tour, the Taylor Swift Tour is going on, so in Vancouver, so hotels apparently are crazy. At least that's what I heard on 101 ESPN, that apparently the Blues are stuck in Edmonton for an extra day, waiting to get to Vancouver. But yeah, going to be a long week. I think if you go 2-2 with playing the caliber of teams you're playing, I think you pick up a win over the Sharks would be my assumption, and then you want to beat one of Dallas, New York, or Vancouver on Tuesday, get you to 2-2 on the week would be just fine in my opinion, especially with the amount of road games and the travel that they have. But yeah, that was kind of the week that was, and the week that's coming up here for the Blues. Some random thoughts. The first one I have, and if you follow me on Twitter, I've been pretty vocal about it. Brenden Saad should not be in the top 6. That guy has been downright awful this season for the Blues. And that's really last night in Edmonton when Monty flipped Saad and Holloway, moved Holloway back down to the third line. That's the first thing that Monty's done that I really think has just kind of been a bad decision. But yeah, I don't think there's any reason Brenden Saad should be playing on the top 6 at this point in his career. Another thing, just back to that Edmonton game last night, I think it was expected that the Oilers fans were going to boo Holloway and Broberg, but it's kind of idiotic because if you want to boo somebody, you should probably boo your front office that didn't match the contracts. But, those Canadian fans that claim to be really smart, the Oilers fans don't do them much justice up there in good old Canada. They should be booing their front office, not the 2 players that didn't have their contracts matched. But what do you expect? They're not really the brightest bunch up there. Moving on, Dylan Holloway, he has been insane recently, like we touched on in the beginning. He's just kind of doing everything for the Blues, and it feels good for me because I have been saying since the preseason he should be in the top 6. He's lighting it up right now, and I think you're seeing him is a guy that Holloway is a guy that I think has had a big injection of confidence with Monty coming in, and then Zach Bolduc as well. I think you saw, and this kind of gets on to another thing I want to say, but you saw in the Road to the Winter Classic, if you watch that, Monty had pulled Bolduc to the side and just told him, dude, shoot the puck. You got to shoot the puck, whatever. And I think having that has been a huge injection of confidence for Bolduc as well, and he's played excellent. And he's, a guy that was being healthy scratched by Drew Bannister, who had no business being healthy scratched, is now in the lineup and making a big impact for the Blues. But like I was saying, if you haven't watched the Road to the Winter Classic, it is such a good show. It literally been one episode, but for the Blues, seeing what what it was like when Monty was brought in, and hearing I think they showed the conversations he had with Bolduc, Kyrou, Matthew Joseph, and Texier in the WTF line. And what I liked about his conversation with Kyrou is just the way he was teaching him was like, hey, this is what I told Pasta. Like, just like if you're Kyrou, like, he thinks you're David Pasternak, basically, of this team. So, like, that should be a confidence boost as well for Jordan Kyrou. But and speaking of Kyrou, he's playing so well right now. He's locked in. He's doing everything. He's even getting in on the forecheck. He's kind of throwing the body around a little bit. And he's generating so many good chances on offense. He's not finding the back of that, I'm sure, as much as he like. I know against Edmonton he had 2 really good chances, and then he had the shot that hit Neighbor's shin pad for the goal that wasn't credited to him. But he's playing incredible hockey right now, and I think he deserves a lot of praise from this fan base, who's been pretty ugly towards him the last few years. But that's just my opinion. I think Jordan Kyrou has been the best player for the Blues this year. He's been really, 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 really good. Another thing we saw this week, the last week or so, Broberg and Parayko finally paired together, and they look really good together. I think it's kind of nice knowing that this is probably the start of a long-term thing, right? This is your top pair for the years to come. And it's nice to finally have that, just looking back at all the what-ifs on that left side after Bouwmeester was gone, but to finally have that guy to play with Parayko, who's been unbelievable, has been just really fun to see over the last few games. And also shout out to Parayko and Jordan Binnington for making Team Canada. I know a lot of people chimed in thinking Parayko didn't deserve it, but he is probably the best defensive defenseman in the National Hockey League, and it's good that he's getting the recognition. And Jordan Binnington, there was no doubt he's going to be the starter for Team Canada, in my opinion. Falk came back on Saturday against Edmonton. Honestly, he just hasn't impressed me at all this year. I think he's been slow. Kind of feels like a liability on the defensive end, and that's not good when he's a defenseman. But they kind of buried him there. I think on that third pair last night, Edmonton with Perunovic. At least that's what the line showed. I know it was kind of jumbled. He played with Suter some last night and whatever. But Scott Perunovic has been really good. And just really overall, it just feels like a different team, and in a good way. Like it feels like that they're, like I said, they're getting pucks toward the net. They look like they're enjoying hockey a little bit more. And what I really like to see too at times is when they cut to the bench, you'll see Monty, in those guys' ears, like coaching them up, telling them this, telling them that. Like that to me is something you never really saw with Bannister. And maybe I'm just kind of being a hater right now. That is possible, but I think that's not something that was seen a lot with Bannister behind the bench, and you're constantly seeing Monty coaching these guys up, and he just seems to have a good rapport with a lot of these guys, and they want to play for him. So the Blues are, in my opinion, in a really good spot. They're playing really good hockey right now. They wrap up this Western Canadian road trip on Tuesday with the matchup against the Canucks. That's going to be a tough one. That's always a tough team to play against. Rick Tocchet's got his team always playing tough physical hockey. But, that's kind of the thing. Vancouver's 14-7-4, 32 points, third in the Pacific. So another team that, you're probably could be chasing come wild card time or, late in the year. So you want to rack up points against these teams while you can. And then especially, like I said, Thursday against San Jose. What do we say every time? You have to beat the Sharks. There's no way around it. They're playing a lot better hockey as of late. But you still have to beat the Sharks. Like I said, I know they're playing better, but there's no excuses for losing to a team like that, especially with the way the Blues have been playing. They should be able to handle them. And then, you go to Dallas on Saturday, who's 16-10. They haven't lost a game yet in overtime for 32 points. And then, you look at the top of the Central just really quick. Minnesota and Winnipeg both rolling at 40 points apiece. Winnipeg, though, kind of come down to earth a little bit. They've strung together 2 in a row, but they were in a little bit of a rough patch there after that loss to the Blues. But, the Blues are going to start picking up points against Central Division teams. They have to. So it's give it a month again, and we'll probably be able to really tell if this team is going to make the playoffs or not, in my opinion, probably end of January. So, a lot to be excited, though, about with this Blues team. They're playing a lot better. They're right in the middle of the playoff picture. I'd be interested to see Dalibor Dvorsky's ripping it up in the AHL. I know it seems like from what I gathered, I tweeted at Jeremy Rutherford asking the question of, like, when it comes time, because I just don't see how Oscar Sundqvist, if this team and what Doug Armstrong has said about being, wanting to be a playoff contender this year, if that's the case, Oscar Sundqvist can't be your third-line center. Whether that's you going out, and what I think needs to happen is acquire a second-line center, and then move Shen down to third-line center, because I think he could play really well with Zach Bolduc. But you need to go get a second-line center that can play with Holloway and Neighbors, or Holloway and Kyrou, whoever it is. And then that way, what you could do next year is start Dvorsky third-line center. You have the guy you acquired at second-line center, and you can move Shen onto the wing and probably get off the Brandon Saad contract or something like that. So I think that would be the best course of action for the Blues is get Schenn to the wing next year, get a second line center, have him play third line center the rest of this year. But yeah, there's a lot that can be done, and if Army is serious about wanting to make the playoffs and thinking this team can push for the playoffs, then Oscar Sundqvist just can't be your third line center. Really, he can't even be in your lineup. He should probably be in the press box. And that's not a knock on Sonny. The guy's coming off a torn ACL. I love everything he's done for this team, this franchise, especially during the Cup run. But, like, at some point, you got to, cut ties here or at least put him in the press box, because you can't just keep playing him every night. He just looks slow, step behind everybody. So yeah, that's one big thing I'd be curious to see over the next few months is how aggressive Doug Armstrong is. I do think there's a big hole there, second line center, and you got some good pieces you can trade from. So a chance to get a real impact guy there in the lineup. But yeah, that's my thing is we'll see how aggressive and how much they really think they're a playoff team moving forward. But yeah, a busy week for the Blues ahead, and we'll talk to you next weekend after the Blues wrap up their Canadian road trip and wrap up a quick little homestand with the game against the Rangers on Sunday. But let's go Blues.